Okay, so in this lesson in Adobe Premiere Pro, we are going to start to talk about text and graphics and making graphics animate and playing with some of those controls and seeing what we can do. Now, we've talked about this in relationship to Adobe After Effects, bringing in Adobe After Effects animations, graphic animations and text, and bring them in and make them work in Premiere. But we want to start talking about how we can build stuff automatically inside of Premiere with graphics. So we're going to go down here to the text controls, and here the T key will be in the text controls. And there's a tendency for a lot of people to want to grab and create a text box. They think they have to grab a box to highlight a section of text like they're in, I don't know, Microsoft Word or something. And you don't really need to do that. I mean, can you do that? Yeah, but I don't think it's in your best interest. So I'm going to hit undo, and we're going to go back here, and I'm just going to click somewhere on the screen and type in text. And we're going to type in New York. So we're going to use all caps, New York. And I'm going to type in New York here. Now, one of the things that I do, which is kind of silly, is I sometimes want to go back to the selection tool, which makes sense because I want to be now able to manipulate this. But before I do that, I want to hit a shortcut to do that. And I know the shortcut for the selection tool is the V key. So I'll hit V, and then I'll hit V again, and it won't work, and it won't go to the selection tool. And I'm like, what's going wrong? Well, dummy, I'm in the middle of typing text. It's really embarrassing that I do that so often that it's almost like you should know better. I need to click over here and click on the selection tool, and now it highlights it in blue, and now I can grab this text and move this text around. But to really manipulate the text, to do more than just kind of scale it up, which I can scale up here, I can grab the edges here and rotate it a little bit and play a little bit of rotation there. And to do more than that, to really manipulate the text, what I want to do is I want to go into Adobe Premiere's text controls, and I want to go to Windows Essential Graphics. Now, you can go to the workspace. There is a workspace that says in here, workspaces, captions, and graphics, and you can bring that up if you wanted to. But simply enough, all I need to do is go to Windows Essential Graphics, and that'll bring up my Essential Graphics windows, which will show me a bunch of things here. And the things here that I have available to me is I can click on this text here, and you'll notice that down here, it'll make a text box here. It makes this a couple seconds long, usually about 4 or 5 seconds long, and it puts us on the next available blank layer. So it put it on video 2 there. But then it brings up this essential graphics thing. Now, if you wanted to bring in something like the Adobe Action Graphics Template News, and you wanted to drag this in, they have a whole list of templates, or what are called MOGRTs, motion graphics templates. You can actually create your own motion graphics templates for like lower third, name on there, or you can go to the Adobe and you could drag this down and bring in this news lower third. It would load this graphic in here, bring this into the program, and you could have this show up once this downloads and plays through. You now have this cool action graphic here that comes in. Looks amazing. Man, it's like a spinning glow. Oh, man, look at all these cool things going on here. This is what's called a... Oh, man, that's really cool. And you can go in here and manipulate this and change this to Adobe Graphics. But that's in the section here in the Browse section. So up here, you have the Browse section where you can browse and grab whatever you want to. And you can actually load graphics that you've made inside of Adobe After Effects into here. You can make your own motion graphics templates if you want to. That'll be really cool. Maybe we'll do that in a future lesson. But for now, we want to go away from the Browse section and go to the Edit section and really see our text and what we can do with our text. And right now we have New York. And it's really kind of simple, easy there. And you'll see under Edit, it says New York, and New York is visible. And we have New York here. There's a little eyepiece that we can turn this off or turn this on. Simple enough. We'll talk about this responsive design a little bit later, but that's really cool, this idea of this responsive design and how this sort of works. But let's just stick with the text. We're going to click on the text here and say, okay, things we can do. Well, we can, first off, we can make this align to either the left side, to the right side, or to the center horizontally. We can also make it align to the top, to the bottom, and to the center horizontally there. So it's now there in the center, right there, exactly in the center. Now, we can also move this. We can move this left or right, decide our own placement for this. But, if we want to go back, we can go back to center or move this vertically. But let's just be simple, and we'll go back to center, and we'll be here at center. Now, you have a control down here. And if you ever hover over these controls, it'll tell you to toggle the animation for the scale, and it will allow you to raise up the scale and make the scale bigger for this. And so you can make the scale bigger. Notice a couple details about this. It has an anchor point, and the anchor point is right here. You can sort of see it. It puts the anchor point at the bottom of the first line of text. So if you had here, and you said New York, and you typed, and after this is great, It's still, when you go back to selection and highlight this in blue, it still puts the anchor point at the bottom of the first line of text. So even if the text is like there, it's going to be here. And it's going to rotate. Here's the little rotation control. You can either go to the edges, and you'll see that my cursor will change from a little arrow to a little rounded arrow. A little hard to see there, but and you can rotate like here. But you can also go here and rotate it with numbers by dragging these numbers. And notice how it rotates weirdly. It rotates around the corner there, which is a weird place for it to rotate. But that's because the anchor point is here on the corner side. Even if this is centered and centered, it's going to put it here and have it anchored there. So you have that control there. You can obviously hover over the anchor point, get to the anchor point, and move the anchor point to say, whoops, let me grab it. Make sure I get that little icon for the anchor point tool. There we go. And I can, come on, let me grab this. Move the anchor point to a better place. You'll notice that here, if I switch between centered, it'll actually move the anchor point to the center. And now I can move the anchor point. That's a little bit better. A little bit tricky there. And I could say here. So let me just undo. I'll show you what I did just then, because it was being a little bit jerky. Here, I was trying to grab the anchor point, but every time I grab the anchor point, I grab the edges. There, I can grab the anchor point for a second there. So the trick being is that in order to have the anchor point where it was, the anchor point's here, you have to get to where you get this weird symbol underneath it, and then you can grab the anchor point and pull. If you're not hitting it right, which I wasn't, I was literally not hitting it right. I keep hitting undo to show you. So grab the anchor point till you get to this anchor point tool and grab this, and you can move this anchor point anywhere you want to and move it around and put it somewhere in the center like so. But by default, it's there where the anchor point is on the bottom of the first line of text at the corner. And the reason why it's in the corner is because right now this text is left justified, which means it's aligned to the left. We can switch the alignment to be the center alignment and the right alignment. And my problem was I had it on the left alignment, and I kept missing it. I kept missing hitting it. And so I'd grab it and I wasn't grabbing it right. So I just moved it to center alignment, and that made it easier for me to grab because I knew I was grabbing this, not the edge of the line. Because you also have the control to grab the edge of the line. So it was a little bit difficult, a little bit tricky. And we had it aligned there. So now New York is great. It's centered within the box that it made, so it automatically makes the box. And this is why I was saying before, you don't have to make your own box. It makes the box for you. And you can have it there. And you can move this anchor point to the center of like the is, which would be roughly in the center there, and you have it aligned like so. And you have those controls there. So now we have this box like this, and we have New York is great. But we're going to undo this. So I'm just going to double click this till I get the is great part. Then I get the cursor again. I'm going to get rid of the is great because I don't really want the is great. I just wanted to show you that you could do it. Let's take a look now. Go back to the selection tool and see where the anchor point is. Okay, now the anchor point's off of this. So let's grab the anchor point and pull this back to maybe the middle of this here. So you can always update your anchor point and have that be there. We're going to put the text right in the center here. Anchor point's right there in the center. Awesome. This is all good. This is great. So we have controls to scale this up. We can make this bigger or smaller here. So you have controls for scale. You can also unlink the scale, and then you have a wide scale versus a tall scale. So you can separate those. But let's just put this back at 302, and we'll link this again so it's more even. So this is a kind of just a natural scale adjustment that we have there. And obviously you have the rotation, with the ability to adjust the rotation and how this is set up there. And then you also have an opacity control. So here's an opacity control that you can make this more transparent or less transparent. And you have an opacity control. And that's kind of for beginners, just for introduction to working with text. Congratulations. We've done something. We've made text in some way whatsoever. There's font types, so you can choose from your various font types. If anyone has a favorite font, Mushtaken. I don't know, that's a great named font. Let's see what else we got. Menlo, Markerfelt. Good old look at good old Markerfelt. Very, very cool. Let's see what else we got here. Anything else cool? I don't know. If you're a typography nerd, maybe you have a favorite font. Maybe you have all kinds of fonts that you like here. There are all these Noto fonts here. What else we got here? Opus, Orbitron. I do like Orbitron. Here's Orbitron. I like Orbitron there. So there's different Orbitron types here. There's regular and Orbitron bold. Yeah, I like Orbitron bold, but I'm going to make this a bit smaller, make this like 200. Cool. Looks very sci-fi futuristic. I'm really a big fan of Orbitron. I don't know why. I just like the name. Sounds like a transformer. Orbitron. So we have that there. There's also control of the size of the text. And so the text size here, the font size, it can get bigger or smaller. And you're like, but Chad, I have another control where I can make this bigger or smaller. What's the difference? Well, one is the control for the layer. So we have the layer here, and we can control the layer. These are the align and transforms are basically for the layer. This is for the text itself. And so this is to scale up the text itself. We're going to leave this at 100 and have it there. Obviously, you have different font types. You have bold, semi-bold, extra bold, black. There we go. We'll leave Orbitron black. Orbitron black. That sounds like a really cool, superhero cartoon. My superhero name is Orbitron Black. Yeah, it's going to be great. You have some controls here for tracking, which is the spacing between lines. So you have some tracking controls. Change this tracking, make it there. Change the spacing. You have a spacing for something called leading or leading, and that is the spacing between lines. So again, if you have this separated as a group of lines, you can change the separation of the lines and make the lines bigger or smaller, closer on top of each other there. We're going to undo that, Command-Z, and make it just one line of text here. Great, we have New York, and we'll leave the kerning at 0. So there, we can make the kerning, sorry, tracking. Adobe calls this tracking. Apparently, if you're a real typography nerd, you'll learn that tracking is the spacing between all lines or all letters. Kerning is the spacing just between 2 letters. So if you had a spacing between 2 letters, you have it there. But beneath this, we have faux bold and faux italics here. So you have faux bold and faux italics. Faux bold just makes this bigger. So you can see a little bit of thicker there. Makes this a little bit thicker, like so. And faux italics makes this slanted. And you're like, but that's just italics. Oh, foolish non-typography nerd. You'll learn that real italics, when they make text, when a typography person, a designer, a character designer, makes typography, makes a certain type of font. When the Times New Roman people get together and they make a font, they make a version of it that is slanted in a certain way with a certain style that is a real italicized. So they basically redesign each letter to look slanty and not just have it be slanted by just slanting it. This is like a fake. So Orbitron doesn't have an italics version, so you can use an italics version to make it there. And you'll see this difference between semi-bold, bold, and black, which is extra bold and black. And that basically reflects how, the roundness between the inside the R and the curve inside the N hits, how it really is designed, how it really shapes. It reshapes letters. Faux bold just makes it thicker. Just makes each of the letters thicker. Just adds a pixel on each around everything and just makes it all thicker. And so that's really what it does in terms of there. And there's some other controls we can talk about. We can talk about the zoom and all the other controls that we have there, the zoom, and have those controls there. But we're going to start moving on, and we're going to move on to some other text controls we can do and just play a little bit with some text ideas here. We don't want to take too long. This might be a little bit of a shorter lesson, but we'll get through it. So the fill color, we can actually add a fill color. And the fill color here, we can say, let's change this to a red. And so we'll make this a red, a bright red there. And we can change this to a bright red. You obviously have a color picker that you can choose whatever colors you want to. You'll also notice that in here, you could actually choose some kind of like a linear gradient. And you could say, instead of red, maybe we want to change one of these stops into yellow, and the bottom stop here into red. And so we have this, and have this yellow into red. That's kind of cool looking. You'll see the top stops up here will actually change the transparency. So we could say have this be yellow here in full opacity, and then this stop have this be in like 20% opacity. And so now it kind of drifts off. You can sort of see it as it goes. We'll go back into here and say, okay, we'll pull this stop a little bit more so you can see this kind of, it's red, but it kind of drifts off and becomes more transparent as it goes underneath here. That's kind of a design that we have there. And we can pull these closer to get more transparency or less transparency through here. You can have this. You can change the angle of the gradient. So if you wanted this to go from left to right, you could change this from 90 to 0. And then it would be like there, like so, kind of transparent that way, going from there. But we're going to change this back to 90. I think I like 90 better. It's kind of cooler. Excellent. We have that there. So then next to fill, we have underneath fill, we can add in a stroke. So we can create a stroke and put a stroke edge on this. And now we have a stroke white around this. And we can do the same thing with the stroke. We could say, okay, the stroke is on the outside. We can put the stroke on the inside. That would cut into the letters, and put the stroke in the center, which is probably more kind of universal. kind of fair, a little bit of stroke on the letters, a little bit of stroke in the background. It kind of fits it there. And so now we can go here and say the stroke can be bigger. We can make it 5 or 6 or something like that, make it huge. But we're going to leave it here down here at 4. Good enough for me. We're going to put it here at 4. And put it there at 4. Excellent. And then we go to the stroke color. We can say, okay, let's pick a stroke color. Let's make the stroke, actually, let's go with a linear gradient. And we'll go from white to black here. We're going to go from white to black. So it goes from kind of light to dark. And then again, we'll change the transparency on the bottom end of this to be completely transparent. So we're going to go opacity and pull that completely transparent. So now it kind of starts off white and then drifts. We might even change the stroke so that it's more white throughout here. So it's very white and the very end, at the very bottom. So it's a lot of white and then drifts off. We can even move this stop here. And so it's very white. And then at the very bottom, it just drifts off into the nothing. Just make sure this is 0. Excellent. So this is cool. So we have that control there, how this thing is designed, how this there. So we're making text. Do we want to put a background around this text box? I guess maybe. I never do this. It's not a big thing for me. I'm not really excited about it. We can put a blue text box behind here and have it be blue. It's right now semi-transparent blue text box. We can make it 100% opacity, so it's there. We can make it like 25%, so it's mostly gone. But you can sort of see it. I'm going to go here from fit. I'm just going to zoom in, so we'll go to like 100% there. So you can sort of see it there. It's kind of mostly transparent. We'll make this more. We'll drag this up and make this more visible. So now it's like 90%. You can sort of still see New York behind it. You can grab this and you can take this text box. Let me go back to fit here. And you'll see I can round the edges of this. So I can actually put some rounding around the edges of this. Now it's kind of like a pill. Make this here a pill around the words. You can sort of see the pill that's kind of cut out around there. So you can have this be rounded or not rounded. And then you can soften some of the edges and expand the edges. So you have the control to expand the edges and pull the edges. So you want to expand it bigger, and then round. You could round in and have a pill like that. So you expand. I don't know, some things you could do inside of here. But here's the truth. I don't use this background. I guess it's a quick way to do it, but I'm not really big on it. It's not a thing I'm really excited about. If you wanted to, we could add a shadow in here. And the shadow will be a gray shadow. Let's pick a white shadow. Let's say I have a white shadow that drifts off there. We'll have a light white shadow. We'll take the shadow distance down here. We'll crank this up to bigger shadow there. We'll change the opacity to stronger. There's my shadow there, like so. We can change this to the shadow there. We can change the distance of the shadow, the spread size of the shadow, kind of make it bigger or smaller. And then we can soften the edge of the shadow. There we go. So we have a shadow there like so. We'll make the shadow a little bit smaller. Hold this a little bit less distance there. And we can even go to a black shadow, I guess, if we want to make this kind of nighttimey. But over New York, I don't know if it's going to be visible. Even if it's at there, we have the shadow sort of like that. We'll change the softness down. Yeah, it's not really visible. So let's keep the white, or maybe even a blue shadow. Blue shadow. Yeah, maybe something as design stylistic thing. We could do it there. We can even change the angle of the shadow where the shadow falls. Change the angle, play with that a little bit. A little bit of fun. A little bit of fun. But you know what? Let's go really simple. We're just gonna go back to white. You could even have a gradient shadow. I know. We don't want to do that. Let's go to gradient shadow. Let's go here. We'll change this to be like that. We'll go here to make this a little bit smaller. And we'll bring up the opacity down a little bit. We'll make this a little bit less distance. And we'll move this back to, I think, 135, which was a good place for it. So a little bit of shadow, just a little bit of shadow drifting off there. I don't know, something is an idea. We can soften this there. Let's make sure this stays white. We'll bring up the opacity a little bit so it's a little bit stronger. So we have a shadow there. If you want the shadow, if you don't want the shadow, I don't know. You can have the shadow. Whoops, sorry. We got rid of the stroke. If you wanted the shadow, you have the shadow or not have the shadow. We're going to leave the shadow off. Let's just say for this, we don't want the shadow. Let's forget about the shadow. Cool. So we have this text here. It says New York. It looks great like that. We're going to go here and have this New York text. Excellent. So now, simply enough, now we have this New York text. It's in here. It looks okay. It has some stylistic elements to it. Cool. We could simply say Command D. We could dissolve this up. So now it's, New York fades up and then the shadow comes up. Boom, does its thing. And then maybe disappears here. We could obviously trim this back, little dual trimmer, pull this back, make it a little bit shorter. We don't need the text up. It just says New York, New York. Bam. Excellent. Great. If we wanted to go back and change this, we could go back in here, go back to the text. And this actual project is not called New York. It's called The Chase. So we're going to change it to The Chase. A little bit different. So with this text, comes up there, does this like so. Amazing with The Chase. So now let's make a lower third. Let's go here and inside of here and let's make a lower third. So we're going to grab here. This is going to be Chad. So we're going to go here and we're going to grab the text tool again. And we're going to right here. Now, we're not going to be clicking this text here. So we're going to just make sure we clicked off of this text here. Cool. We're going to go here to the text tool and we're going to type in Chad. Notice it retained all the same things that I had before. So it retained all the same controls I had before. We're going to say Chad Anderson. That's me. Cool. And so we're going to say, let's go to fill. Let's go a little bit simpler. We're not going to do a linear gradient. We're going to do a solid. And the solid is going to be maybe a shade of white. Cool. We'll just have some white text there. Cool. Oh, we're not clicked on it. Let me click on it first. I got to make sure I'm clicked on it. That's a trick. So we'll go back here, solid, and we're going to say, cool, just let this be a solid red. Okay, cool. The stroke, we're going to play with the stroke. We're going to go back to the stroke and say, let's have a solid stroke. So it's just Chad Anderson there. Maybe we'll change this to blue. I think blue will be a better way to go. We'll have this be Chad Anderson down here. It'll be here like so. It's going to say Chad Anderson right in the corner there. Now I could do this thing where I added a background in here. I could add a background here and have blue as a background, but I'm going to do it this way. In here, in addition to the text controls, you do have this control to make a rectangle. So if you're clicking this text, you can make a rectangle on this text. And so here, we're going to say, I'm going to drag a rectangle here. So I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. I'm going to drag a rectangle that's going to go from here to about here and just make a line. Now, this line ends up going on top of Chad Anderson. So it's shape on top of Chad Anderson. There's obviously an eyepiece for this that you can turn on and turn off. We're going to turn this and bring this one down and put this down here. Great, we have it like this. I think this is a better way to go. Now, this looks great, but I don't necessarily love the text or the shape layer. So we're going to go to the shape layer, and then the shape layer has its own controls. So you can scale this up. You can make it bigger. We can rotate it if we wanted to, which would be weird. We can change the opacity and have it be semi-transparent. But let's do that in the fill controls. So let's go to the fill controls. We're going to say, and we can just simply grab it. Like we can grab it and make it bigger if we wanted to, have it be larger, grab the edges and rotate it there. So you have some direct manipulation controls there. We're going to have it like this. We're going to do the fill controls, and we're going to say, this is going to be maybe a darker shade of blue. Yeah, maybe a darker shade of blue, but we'll do a gradient. We'll do a gradient, a linear gradient, and we're going to say, let's make the top of this a darker shade of blue, and the bottom of this be like a shade of black. And so it's going to go here, dark blue to black, except we're going to go to this. We're going to say dark blue. We're going to pull the dark blue, maybe the dark blue like this, maybe not that dark. We'll pull the dark blue over so it's more dark blue. And then here, we're going to grab this and have this go to 0% opacity, like there. And you have that in terms of your gradient broken out kind of that way. And so it's linear gradient like there. Maybe I want this a little bit more separated. So we're going to go back into these controls and have this be a little bit less. I want to drift off a little bit more. You know, maybe even say, push this way a little bit, but still have kind of this fade out into black. So I have this text in here. Anyway, I don't know. You can design. I'm not necessarily the world's greatest graph designer. You know, you can design what kind of text you want to make. I'm just showing you what you can do with this. So we have Chad Anderson showing up. It says Chad Anderson here. Cool. And we have it there. So we notice we can have two different layers here. Now, if you wanted to, you could go back to the text controls. And down here, you could say, cool, Chad Anderson. And you could say, awesome guy. You know, because let's be honest, he's kind of an awesome guy. So you have this text control here. Now you have Chad Anderson, awesome guy. You can have both of these on top here. It's making both the text the same way. You can take the bottom text, awesome guy. You could say, let's make this a little bit smaller. We'll make this like 80. I have a button here for a safe margin. If you do not have the button for the safe margin, there's this little guy right here. It's called the button editor. And the button editor has the buttons you can bring in. So if you didn't have the safe margin, you could grab in the safe margin button and put it in here. boom, and say, cool, you have a safe margin. And then you can bring up the safe margin. And this is your safe title, safe action area. So you notice my awesome guy is falling way out of the safe title, safe action area. So I'm going to click on Chad Anderson. I'm going to bring this up a little bit to here. Just have it there within the safe titles. We're going to grab the solid layer here. We're going to have this like this. And then we're going to have awesome guy just falling, luckily. Don't double click because then you're going to go into edit mode. Just falling into here, awesome guy. We'll have it just making sure it barely falls into the safe. Well, it's falling into the safe title at least. Maybe we'll make it a little bit lower here. There we go. So we have this here, like there. Awesome. So now I have Chad Anderson, awesome guy. We can turn off my safe title, safe action margin areas there and have this inside of here. And we have this title. And so now it comes up. Chad Anderson, awesome guy. Awesome. Looks pretty good. My playback's a little bit questionable, but when it renders, it will play back a little bit smoother and play back a little nicer. And we have Chad Anderson, an awesome guy. Now, one of the nice things that I really like is in this scene over here, I think, you have another angle here of Chad Anderson, and this one has a blur over it from before, and so we can't really see who this person is. If you want to duplicate your text, and if you want to make different copies, so say, for example, you have a lower third, and you want to have that lower third exist in like several different places, right? That would make sense. You can go here and say, let's grab this, and if you know, holding the Option key on a Mac or the Alt key on a PC, you can grab this and drag, and you can make another copy of this. And now we can have a secret identity. So now we can say here, this lower third, why would you have a lower third over somebody who has a blur? That doesn't make any sense. But, you know, here you could say, let's grab Chad Anderson here. Sorry, let's go back to selection tool. And we're going to go here to Chad Anderson. We're going to say unknown assailant. Assailant. Click on this guy, say also awesome. And so now here we have this unknown assailant. So I just like the idea that if you had like a documentary where you had multiple different people you were interviewing and you just want to keep the same text, that option drag, oh man, it's so easy just to option drag and grab the new thing and have that new idea inside of there. So we can have that as a thing. So in here, you can make text boxes. So we can go back to say the chase and say, for example, we wanted to have instead of a rectangle, we want to have an ellipse. We could go to chase, click on chase, and we could grab in an ellipse, maybe a circle. We're going to drag like this, can make a circle. We'll hold down shift so it makes a perfect circle. And now we have this perfect circle here. We're going to back to the selection tool. With the selection tool, we'll have the chase here. And into the chase, we're going to put the shape beneath it there. Cool. And we'll make like a, I don't know, maybe we'll try to make like a moon. We'll try to make a moon. I don't know, maybe we'll try something here. I'm going to go to the fill color for this. Let's see what we can do. We're going to do a radial gradient, which is going to have, this is going to be like white over into black. I like the white and the black. We're going to change the opacity to be not there. So we have kind of this action. We're going to play with this so it has kind of a rounded shape. We'll pull this back a little bit this way. So we're tweaking this a little bit like there, making this a little bit wider. Excellent. We could pull it up and make more, whatever it may be. Pull this more or less, and have this kind of half gradient this way. There's actually little controls you'll see in your display when you're here in the gradient. You'll see these little buttons here. You can actually pull in here and pull these. Whoops, let me see. Okay, and click off this and say pull this and change how the gradient looks. So you can't do this while you're in the middle of doing it, but we're going to make a little moon here, just to have kind of a look here. Great, we have this moon there. We may want to go back to the chase. Let's go back to here. So this looks good, looks okay. Let's add a stroke on here. We'll add a stroke. So that adds a little outside stroke there. We'll go to the stroke. We'll say, let's keep this white. I like the idea of white. Maybe we could do like a, I don't know, can we do like a white radial gradient and then have it be white into like black or something and just have it be, I don't know, it'll be like mostly white. And then it'll go to less opacity at the end. And then what I want to do is I want to make this really big. So we'll make this really big. I think I messed up. Let's see. It's white in the center, which is not going to work for us. Yeah, that might be the best we're going to get out of here. Yeah, so I wanted something like this, but I wanted this to be kind of like mostly white into black. Yeah, that's not gonna work for us. I don't know. We could do more with Photoshop. Like we can obviously do more with Photoshop. So we're gonna go back to a solid. There we have a solid. We're gonna take the white here, and we are going to say, let's reduce the size of this. And maybe we could do a little bit of, I don't know. I still want to do a linear gradient kind of, but I don't want to do that. I don't want to do a linear gradient that way. Or I want to do a radial gradient, but I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look like there, and this would be like white with like light gray or I don't know, something. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. We could play a little bit more. Not exactly sure what I want to do, but I thought the idea would be fun. But you can't really get this kind of look that I'm going for. I made this black, this make the edge black because it's on the inside. Well, we could actually play with it this way. We could say maybe with the radial gradient here, we could say, let's make this. Can we pull this? That's going to pull the edge of the thing. It doesn't pull the edge of the, Anyway, we're going to go back to the stroke here. A little bit of playfulness. We'll go back to a good old solid. We'll just make a little bit of a stroke, just like a little bit like an eight stroke there, maybe even smaller, 4, 5. Cool. So a little bit of a planet there. I don't know. It looks sort of planetary, but I don't like the chase now. I'm going to go to the chase and say, let's go to the fills opacity because I don't like this drifting off into 20% opacity because I want to be able to see it. Yeah, I feel like that's going to be better. Cool. So now I have the chase there. Looks kind of cool. We have the planet showing there. Is this still semi-transparent? Let's see, a little bit. It's 74. Let's bring it in fully. There we go. The chase over the moon. Cool, excellent. I could even take the moon and put the moon up somewhere else, but I can make these unique shapes if I wanted to. I could make these unique shapes in here and there. So I do have a rectangle tool, I have an ellipse tool, and I have a polygon tool. So I can use the polygon tool and make some kind of weird polygon shape and make some kind of design of a polygon shape. And it will actually tell me over here the number of sides to my polygon shape. So I can increase and make more sides to my polygon there, and I can make a diamond. Maybe I'll get rid of the, no, I'm going to keep the moon. I like the moon better, but I could take the diamond, select the diamond, move the diamond here, have the chase with the diamond behind. I don't know, I'm making some design here that has some kind of idea. I add more sides to my diamond because I think this is a chase through the pentagon. I'll add 5 sides. Pentagon. Cool. I'll make this look like the pentagon, and I'll put this in here, make this grayish. I don't know, is the pentagon gray? I guess something. I don't know. I don't think we need that. We're going to get rid of that layer. We're going to click on this layer. Whoops, don't rename it. We're going to get rid of that. We're going to rename this shape layer and call this in here, call this the moon. The moon. There's my moon. And I understand it's not a real moon. It's sort of kind of a moon. It works there as an idea. So that's, we can make some text. We can make some cool text. I don't know if this is cool or not. We can make some text. So let's play some more. Let's talk about some other things we can do with some text here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go to this lower third here. This is Chad Anderson, awesome guy. We'll go back to here, and I want to show you this idea of responsive design. So we're going to say with the shape layer, here in the shape layer, we'll look at the shape layer, and what we're going to do is we're going to say, let's get rid of the gradient amount here. And we're going to change this here. We'll make this be fully opaque, and we'll make this just a solid. We'll just make this a solid here, just to show you the idea. We can make it a gradient if we want to, but I just want to make it a solid. We're going to change the size here, and I want to just change the size that I drew here. We're going to put this right over Chad Anderson, and we'll make this just this big. So we just make this big here. Okay, so the idea being here is we're going to duplicate this. So we're going to make another one of these. We'll just make another shape, make another rectangular shape. Maybe we'll have awesome guy like this over this. So we're going to have this shape number 2 here under awesome guy. So we have awesome Chad Anderson, awesome guy. We have both these in here like this. We'll make this a little bit bigger this way. So this is Chad Anderson, awesome guy. So shape 1 is for Chad Anderson. Shape 2 is for awesome guy. We have them laid out like this. Great. Okay, so I'm going to go to shape 1. And I'm going to go here. And I'm going to choose pin to Chad Anderson. I'm going to turn this on. So if you hit that right in the center there, it turns this on. And when we turn this on, we're going to say pin to Chad Anderson, turn this on. And now it has what's called responsive design. And that responsive design works this way. If I choose Chad Anderson, if I double click on it, for example, and I start to write somebody else, you know, Horatio Anderson the third, you notice that the text that's making, the shape that's making, is becoming bigger based on the fact that I have more stuff there. It's actually growing the size of this based on the thing there. So, if I change this back to Chad Anderson, I can go back to here, undo it, and you see that the shape layer itself is getting smaller. Chad Anderson. I'll go back to awesome guy. I'll grab this shape. I'll say pin this to awesome guy. Pin this here to awesome guy. And now when I go to awesome guy here, I can say, no, really, he is kind of fantastic. And it's just going to make this graphic as big as, it's going to make the shape layers there. So that's the idea of pinning to something else. Normally by default, it's pinned to the video frame and it will be the size of the video frame, but you can pin it to other layers. And so they become larger as other layers. They extrapolate basically as other layers go. We're going to undo that and go back to here. You'll see the layer gets smaller. We're going to go back to awesome guy. I think that's my official title. It's on my business card. Chad Anderson, awesome guy. So we have that control in there. I just want to show you that you can do that technique of responsive design in here. Okay, let's play some more. So now we're going to go here and we're going to take the chase. We're going to get rid of, we're going to get rid of, so we have shape 1, which was, we're here. We're on Shadow's Most Guy. Let's go back to here. We have the moon. We're going to get rid of the moon. I understand. We're going to get rid of the moon and we're going to delete the moon. Okay, I want to go with a different shape. So above this, I now have the pen tool. And with the pen tool, I can make my own shapes. I want to make a fish. Yeah, I'm going to make a fish. So we're going to go here. I'm going to click here, click here, click there, click there. We're going to pull out like this, click to here. We're going to pull out like this, click to there, click back down to here, and then pull to there and go to the beginning spot and make a fish there. Then we made a fish. Great. So now we have a fish. I think the fish behind it, I think that really spells out what we're going to do. I think that really works. No, it doesn't make sense. That's kind of silly. I just knew I could make a fish. I just knew I had the technology, the ability to make the fish. So I'm going to click on the fish, get rid of it. Let's see. Can I make a gun? I don't want this to be a gun chase, but we can see we can make a gun here. We can go here and see. Click, click. I don't know what kind of gun to make, really. We go here and say, I don't know, click like this. Click here. I'm not really big on making guns. I don't know, something like this. There to there. Pull into here. Pull out to there and make a gun. Yeah, I can make a gun shape. Yeah, something. It's a really dumb looking gun, but you could make, you could make your own shapes inside of there. So I'm just showing you that with the pen tool, you could make shapes. You could build and design your own shapes. Or we could do this. Now, there is one other control here. So we're going to actually go back here. We're going to take the chase, and I'm just going to make a shape. We'll go back to, I wonder if I can undo a whole bunch. Because I can undo a whole bunch and undo the fish. And go back to the moon. Can I bring the moon back? I really like the moon. The moon back. Cool. I just undid like 1,000 times. And so I went back to the moon here. We're going to take the moon. We'll make the moon a little bit smaller. We'll go to the scale of the moon, make the moon a little bit smaller, the chase. Chasing the moon. We're going to go back to the selection tool. Otherwise, I'm going to start drawing new stuff. So now we have the chase. We're going to put the chase, the moon here. Now, in here, there's a little tiny control, and this little tiny control allows you to grab in new layers. So if you click here, this new layer button says, hey, do you want to make another text layer? Well, you could just type in text, make a new text layer. Do you want to make a vertical text layer? Ooh, interesting. Do you want to make a rectangle, an ellipse, or a polygon? Yeah, we can make these all with the tools. Like the tools allow us to there. But if you didn't like the tools, if you were afraid of the tools, you could make it there. But the real trick, the real thing I'm excited about is in here, make it from file. Ooh, what does that mean? Well, that means I can grab in a graphic from a file. So let me just show you really quickly. On here, on the desktop here, I have, on my desktop, I have this guy that says runner. Let me alphabetize this here. I brought in this runner, which is this image here that looks like this guy running. I grabbed this little graphic here. There's this picture of this runner here. So I thought that'd be cool. So let's see if I can bring that in. It's a PNG file, so it has an alpha channel into it, which will be kind of cool. So we're going to here, we're going to say new layer, from file, and we're going to go here and grab in from the desktop. We're going to go here and grab in this runner. And so we're going to grab this runner and bring this runner in here, and now it grabs in this runner. So now I have a runner layer. We're going to put the runner there. Since it's the chase, we'll scale this down and put this runner in here. And so now I have this little runner exists there. Now here's the limitations. The limitations is that this is a file. So this is a file that we brought in, which means this file doesn't have controls to like add a stroke to this or change the color of this. It is the file that is the file. You know, there's not really a lot I can do here to manipulate this or control this in any way that's useful, I guess. I mean, it is what it is. I could put the runner here, put him over the moon. Oh, this is gonna be kind of cool. Oh, I like this. That's the look I'm going for. Chasing the moon. I don't know. It looks kind of cool now. Now it looks like a totally different thing. We have a whole different design there of inside here. So the runner just basically has controls for scale. We can do some rotation, you know, whatever it may be. You have those controls in there. So you can bring in files there and make stuff and have those kind of things built and created inside of here. So let's talk about a little bit about animating this and controlling this inside of here and really creating stuff inside of these controls here. So in here, if you're clicked on the layer here, inside the layer here, you have the ability to go to effects controls, and effects controls will show you all the controls for this. Now this gets a little bit complicated, and I do want to talk about how it gets complicated. You have the video controls. We've talked about this in a previous lesson. You have the ability to adjust the position, the scale, the rotation, and the opacity. So you can change the opacity, and you could add masks, and you could add other effects in there. You could make this whole thing black and white if you wanted to. You could change this using some kind of other effect and, I don't know, add a Gaussian blur or something. You know, you have all those controls as though this were a layer. So, you know, you could drag this in here and grab in a Gaussian blur in here and say boom, and then you would have the Gaussian blur to make this whole thing, you know, well, we're making the video here blurry. We're making the text box blurry. Let's see. So you can make some other things here, and you can control different things. You can make this black and white if you wanted to. You have those abilities to control that Gaussian blur. So it puts a Gaussian blur on the text box itself, which ends up being a weird thing that it does because text is a little bit tricky of how it attributes there. Now there's my blur. So it put the Gaussian blur here under graphics. So it added the Gaussian blur there under graphics. That's kind of how graphics work. It puts it there. And now we can, well, we got to put it up here. The order of this becomes important of where this is. So it puts it at the top and blurs this text out here. So we can have some controls like there to do some text there. So you have these regular controls for position, etc., all the motion controls, all the opacity controls. You have all those controls regularly like there. Then above this, you do have controls here for the graphics themselves. So the graphics themselves have controls to manipulate the position and scaling of the text. So here's the controls for the text. Here's everything you can do, including the source text animation. So you have the ability to control the source text. You have the ability to control the position, scale, rotation, opacity, anchor point for the text. Then you have the ability to control the position, scale, rotation, opacity, anchor point for the clip. And then you have the ability to control the position, scale, opacity, or the shape, the size, and then ability to control the colors and all these other things. So you have stopwatches for everything. So here, let's do an animation. Let's just play an animation. We're going to come up with an animation idea here. We're going to have the text itself. So the text itself is going to come from left screen to right screen. It's going to come in here, and it's going to say, okay, let's say, we're going to say this text is going to come on screen. We're going to get rid of the dissolves here. We don't want the dissolves. So we'll click on both sides of the dissolves, and we're going to say here, this is going to pop on. But right here, it's going to, instead of popping on, right about here. So it comes on screen here. Let's just take a look. It comes on screen here at 104. We're going to go to 114, maybe 116, 12 frames later, half a second later. And we're going to say at half a second later, we're going to click on this. And we're going to say, okay, let's add a keyframe for position. Yeah. And let's add a keyframe for opacity while we're at it. So this is going to come on screen. It's going to be off screen over here. So we're going to move it over here. So this is just the text. This is not the whole layer. This is just the text. So this is going to come on screen here, and it's going to be at 0% opacity. So it's going to fade on and come over like this, boom, like there. So we have this little animation coming in here. Maybe we'll go here and we'll say on these keyframes, we're going to right click and go to temporal interpolation, ease in. So now it's going to slide in a little bit smoother. There we go, a little bit more playful. We could even go in here into the controls and say, let's really crank this and have this really be kind of a slidey kind of motion. Same thing with the opacity. We'll go here like this, so it's going to come in here and go. Yeah, a little stylish thing. Boom, it's going to land right there. And then here, once this happens, this is going to make contact. And then once this happens, we're going to go here to the shape. The shape at this point, not like the appearance, the shape is going to be scaled down. Remember 66. We're going to scale this down to 0. So it's going to be invisible. Then we're going to animate stopwatch animate the scale. And then we're going to go here to 316, which would be 8 and 204, roughly about the same time. And we're going to scale this back up to 66. Cool. So now it's going to come across. This is going to come across. And it's going to go boom and then open up. So it's going to be like this. The chase. Bam. It's going to open up like there. Maybe we'll make this a little bit quicker. We'll make the scale happen a little bit sooner. A little bit quicker scale. And then see if we can do a scale adjustment so that it starts a little bit. Let's see what it does here. It does here to here. Yeah, we'll have it be like that. We can actually ease this a little bit. We'll go here, we'll right click, we'll go to temporal, ease in. We have a little bit of that action. We'll tweak this here. Can we make this bigger? Make this line bigger. Yeah, you can barely see. It's only going from 0 to 66, so it doesn't really have a lot going on. You could kind of pull this. This would be a drastic pull. I almost want to make this have like a little pop. See if that pop would happen. It's gonna go boom. Yeah, I like that. Little bounce there. There we go. Cool. We have so we have that animation going on. A little bit of a good look. And then we'll have this at this point. Maybe the runner, the clip runner, will fade up. So now this is gonna bounce up, boom, land here, and then very slowly, this runner is gonna have an opacity adjustment. It's gonna start at 0. And then it's going to be fading up. It's going to be in there. So it's going to show up after the fact, very gradually. There. This is our animation of our text, the chase. There we go. Oh, man, that's something. That's something. I mean, it's not, groundbreaking, but it's something. Yeah. Some cool things we can do with text. Some cool games we can do with text. Again, can you do more in After Effects? Of course you can, but this is some starters. This is some basic stuff we can do inside of here with Premiere to make this work. All right, let me do one more thing, and I want to talk about one more idea. So if we look at this text here, awesome guy here. Now, I'm going to get rid of these shapes. I just want to talk about the text in general here. You will see in here, whoops, sorry, undo. We're going to get rid of shape number 2. Cool. All right, we will see in here that if I take this, you will see this control here that says vector motion. And vector motion works this way. If I go here and I scale this up, if I go to the motion controls for this layer and I scale this up and I say, let's make this bigger. If I make this bigger, and I'm going to move this back up to the center of the screen here just so you can really see this here. If I make this bigger, if I make this super huge, if I make this gigantically huge, one of the problems that's going to occur is it's going to end up looking pixelated. I'm just going to make this super big, and I'm going to bring this way up screen here. You're going to see that some of the edges start to look a little bit blocky. They're going to start to look aliased, and they're going to look pixelated. This is what's called aliasing, which is this blocky look. As I make the text really, really big, I keep moving it up here. So you can really see it. It ends up looking really blocky. And that's because it's taking the layer and just enlarging all the pixels. So it's just making the pixels themselves bigger. And there's not a lot we have ability to do inside of here. And this is because this considers this what's called a raster image. And a raster image consists of pixels. And these pixels, you make them bigger, you make them bigger. And this is what happens with video. Same thing that happens with a video layer. So if we didn't do this here with the motion here, and we said with this video layer, with Chad, look at Chad here. Good it looks. If we scale him up and make him super big, guess what? He becomes all pixelated. So you get really blockiness, in the picture here, like so. Oh, look at my whole face here. Oh, look how blocky my face looks. And you get this pixelation. And that's because it treats the graphics like this same kind of thing. But we don't want it to do that. We don't want it to have that kind of control. So in here, with this text, we also have this control here that says vector-based motion, and it gives vector-based position, scale, rotation, and anchor point there. And the vector-based motion says, hey, treat this text like it's a piece of text. It's a piece of vector-based art. And vector means basically it was kind of created by math. So you know that a circle, for example, if you make a circle is a mathematical equation. It's good old pi r squared. Remember in school, grade school, you had pi r squared. You make a circle, it is, the radius times pi squared, pi r squared. And so that's how you make a circle. So when you make a bigger circle, and you say, hey, let's just make the circle bigger, scale this up, it'll just redraw the circle. It just decides what the radius or the scale is, and it just redraws this every single time. So up in here in the graphics section, you have this ability to basically redraw this. And this is what's called vector-based motion. So you'll see here with Chad, for example, Chad Anderson, if I scale it up here under the vector category, in the vector motion category, if I scale up here, I can scale it up much bigger, and I can move it here much bigger. And you'll see, no matter how big I make this, I'll keep scaling up and moving. It keeps redrawing it, and every time it redraws it, it keeps the edges nice and sharp. Look how sharp the edges are. They look fantastic. They're amazing. I'm scaling this up super duper huge, and I keep making this bigger. You'd start to think that after a while, I'd start to see some aliens saying, nope, smooth edges. And that's because if you're scaling up text, it's vector-based, and the vector-based motion has those controls. So shapes you make, squares, rectangles, circles, polygons, even the pen tool, if you use vector, it's going to scale it up and it's going to move it as though it was vector art. So it's moving this around inside of here as though it was a piece of vector, and therefore it will scale up smoothly and cleanly. The only problem is, and this is the thing I don't necessarily love, is that the runner, it doesn't translate the runner as a piece of vector art. Even though this could be a piece of vector art, even if I brought in an Illustrator file or I brought in some EPS file as a piece of vector art, it says, nope, it's not a piece of vector art to me. I don't consider it a piece of vector art. And so there's not much you can do unless you want to, redraw this guy as its own, this runner here as your own piece with the pen tool, make your own runner. I could try to do that. I could say, hey, let's get rid of this runner. Sorry, let me click away. Let's get rid of this runner. And let me draw my own runner here. Man, this is going to be easy. This will be easy, right? Because you saw my fish before. My fish was really great. So I could see, let's draw a dude here that looks like this. There, we'll just draw this into here. Draw some arms or something. There we go. We'll make a head here like this. Oh, man. Look at that. I mean, that's kind of perfect, right? That's amazing. Look at that dude run. Look at him. I mean, it looks exactly the same. Let's be honest. It looks exactly. There's my runner. I mean, I don't, he looks great, doesn't he? I mean, that's the same, pretty much the same thing. I mean, pretty much. You would tell that that's a weird, sharp, pointy running shark head creature. I don't know. Let's undo and go back to my runner. But yeah, that's a shame because this guy, this runner he'd resize perfectly fine. This guy will not. So if I try to resize this guy, the runner, he doesn't really consider himself vector based. So he will get, if you make him big, he'll get a little bit aliased as he goes. And this will only scale this up to 400%. So is what it is an idea. Anyway, I hope that kind of settles some of the things in terms of some of the controls we have in terms of text. Text is the thing you can do. And again, like I said, you can do it in Photoshop. You can do it in After Effects. You can make it. You can bring it in. You can have it there. But if you want to build text, you want to just stay inside of the Adobe Premiere Pro environment, these are some of the things you can do. There's people who can do better things than I can probably, but, it is what it is. This is the interface. This is how it works. All right. Until we meet again in a future lesson and we do something different. Cool.